All right, everyone. Welcome back to Student Dream TV, where we share money, investing, and startup tips for the Black collegian. And in the midst of everything going on with COVID-19, there's been such a pause on, future job prospects and internship prospects for a lot of you out there. And so what we want to do is provide you with some real, solid, practical, relevant advice to help you navigate all of the uncertainties that a lot of you are facing. And so I'm bringing together a bunch of my colleagues and friends who just have loads of experience when it comes to dealing with uncertainty and can really kind of just encourage you, inspire you, and empower you to make different moves through their stories. And so today I'm here with Rudy Carrasco from the Murdock Trust, and he has been in the world of just philanthropy and nonprofits and community development and job creation for almost 3 decades, which is longer than I've been alive. And so I'm excited to hear from him today. But yeah, let's just kick things off. So Rudy, can you just start with quickly introducing yourself?
Yes, no, great. Thanks for having me, Nina. And I'm glad to be with somebody who you have the mission that you do at Student Dream, and also you're already a natural as a host. I mean, I'm going to get into some long stories here and just cut me off. Tighten it up, Rudy, tighten it up. No, I'm glad to be talking and answering some of these questions. I'm a program director at the Murdock Charitable Trust in Vancouver, Washington, which is basically a suburb of Portland, Oregon. We're right on the Columbia River. I've been here for 2 years on the grant making side. I'm a program director and I evaluate grant proposals with a team of people. Right now I'm looking at a desk, it's about $2 million in requests.
Wow.
And I'm a thousandaire, okay? I'm not a millionaire, I'm a thousand. I've actually been on the grant making, the money granting side for just 2 years. For most of my adult life, 28 years, I've been on the nonprofit side, raising money, writing proposals, trying to get the funding in. So I've been on both sides of the desk, so to speak. And I'm learning a ton of stuff. I would be happy to answer any question that you have, ask anything. If I can't disclose the information or if it's proprietary for some reason, I'll look you in the eye and say, wow, I can't answer that, but let me say this. I appreciate that about our team at the Trust. Our goal is truly to help nonprofits get stronger. When there's a group that we've made funding, that we provided funding for, we've already looked at them closely. We have consonance with the mission, and we're like, hey, you know what? We're analysts at desks. You guys are doing the mission, and we say our fruit grows on the trees of others. So we're like, absolutely, we want to see how the nonprofits can get stronger. And so our team, we talk about that. We say, be as helpful as you can, make whatever connections you can, explain what we do and why. Yeah, there's some stuff we just keep to ourselves, but for the most part, it's all about sharing what we know and how can we help, and that includes funding.
Love it. How can we help? How can we help?
So we have a focus as the Trust on the 5 Pacific Northwest states of Alaska, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We do occasional grants to national groups that are doing stuff that's going to impact the Pacific Northwest. And in a way, it feels like a parish. We don't use that language formally or at our website, but parish is, I'm involved with my church and my faith, and I understand the concept of parish. You have sort of a footprint. It's hard to put your arms around the whole world, but maybe you can do something in a space, and you're trusting and encouraging others to take care of their space.
I like that.
And finally, as intro, my wife, Coffee, is Bed-Stuy born, do or die.
Hey,
and, we've been married 25 years.
That's where I'm at.
What's that?
That's where I'm at. I'm right in downtown Brooklyn, but I actually go to church in Bed-Stuy, so I'm there a lot.
Oh, great. I'm always at the C stop at Franklin and Fulton.
Yeah, that's right where we're at.
Oh, really? That's well, my family. We'll have to connect. My family, my extended family, my wife and her family are over in that area. As I mentioned, we've been married 25 years, and we have 4 kids. My son's 19 and a sophomore in college, and I have 3 teenage daughters, and it's great. Girl dad, you know.
Girl dad, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Rudy. I'm really excited just to hear all of what you have to say. And I think we can just jump right in, you know? So, I mean, first thoughts, right? When you think about just the new state of affairs when it comes to job opportunities for young people, especially, you know, the class of 2020 that is literally graduating in a few weeks. Today is what, April 23rd? You know, most kids are slated to graduate in a few weeks, and all these companies have gone on pause. You know, what do they do? I feel like there's probably many of them who are listening now just filled with anxiety. I know I would be. So it's like, where do I even start? Like, yeah.
Yeah, you know what, I as a preface, you know, most of my life I've been actually comfortable with uncertainty. And I think that's just out of a lot of my personal experience, having gone through enough uncertainty. After a while, you figure out ways to operate in uncertainty. So I'm saying that as a preface because most people, I think, aren't necessarily that way, and you operate from things being a little more stable. And so it can be hard to make that pivot. And the preface is because I think a lot of what I'm going to say is coming from that mind space. We're like,
yeah,
hey, things are uncertain and no problem, let's get things moving. And I just want to recognize not everybody's there. But I can also speak freely with that. You know, I want to work backward from the question. There was a point right when I was out of college in the early 90s where I was managing editor of a magazine. And it was called Urban Family. Our founder, a guy named Dr. John Perkins, he's back in Mississippi now, but he was in California.
The OG.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know. Dr. John Perkins is the OG.
Well, great, because it was at the Harambee Christian Family Center in Pasadena, California. And I was his assistant for 4 years.
Wow.
So if anybody knows John Perkins and you like him or you have some respect for him, I was at his right hand for 4 years. I realized that we didn't use this term then, but I was an apprentice.
Wow. Because
I worked with him, but we also lived in that same community. I lived on the compound. He was in the first house. I was in the fourth house. And I saw, you know, during work time and then unofficially at dinner on the weekends, traveling. I spent so much time with this guy, and I got to see him when he was with some big shots and when he was with people in the community, all different ethnic groups, all different levels of society. I got to really be very close to him. And he did that intentionally. He always said that when you look at Jesus in the Bible and his disciples, that they caught a lot more than what he taught them. So teaching words, you know, being very direct and laying out principles versus being together and watching how he did stuff, small things. I mean, if you actually look at a lot of the stories, gospel stories, a whole lot of them start with, they were walking from A to B, or, you know, while they were doing something, something happened. A lot of these events are life being lived and his immediate responses to that. And the disciples are watching and observing the whole time. So that's what John Perkins decided he was going to do. He said he would open up his life, and not just to me, to anybody who came through. I mean, thousands of people in some way, shape, or form have had a lot of experience. So I was apprenticing, and I was there, not making much. I mean, he at first said, raise your support. And I was like, I don't think I can raise any support. And then he disappeared for 24 hours, and he came back and he said, this was an awesome question. I love this. He said, how much money do you need so that I can have your full attention? And what he was saying was, he's seen situations where somebody's like, I can raise a little bit of money, but I need to go get a side job somewhere. And he did not want that because he wasn't going to have what he needed. He needed a full-time person. And he wasn't just cheap or trying to lowball. I mean, it was basically a missionary ministry enterprise.
Right.
So I did some numbers, and I had just gotten out of college, and it was 30 years ago, but I said, I need about $16,000 to pay my loan, eat beans and rice, and I got this, bucket of a car, and I'll be good. And he said, okay. So I was there when we started this magazine, and there was, and this is a magazine, but please hear me. Everybody who's hearing this, I think this applies everywhere. In that sense, think about me as like the boss or the owner of the business or something. I was just the managing editor. But I was the gatekeeper for articles and photos and other content for the magazine. And there were a lot of people who wanted to be in the magazine.
Yeah.
Whenever they see articles unsolicited, I got them. Whenever they wanted to have an article in our magazine, I was the one who got the call and talked to them. And so I was like 24, 25 years old. I had some big names calling me up like, Rudy,
wow.
Everybody wants this. I'm giving you the first shot. I'm like, you're just talking, but so I would explain to them that, well, we have our plan and our process, and, it's all full. Well, we can think about it later. The team will get back to you and all that. Invariably, 2 days before we had to go to print, which is a big deal because we're putting out money, $10,000, $15,000 to print magazines.
Wow.
Back when magazines used to be printed, 2020. And an article would fall off. We couldn't verify something. The writer didn't get the edits back to us. I don't know what. And I'm sitting here with a white blank piece of paper. And I'm like, I got 2 days. So I would always turn to, I had a pile on my desk of articles that people had sent in. And so I'd first go to that. Usually I would always wish that I could call someone like Nina, you, and say, hey, write something for me real quick, get it back to me. But that has a number of problems. I mean, sometimes people can turn it around, but usually they're like, well, how much are you going to pay? I think this is worth $2,000. You're making me rush it. It's $2,500. I'm like, I got zero.
Wow, that's how it works? That's how they do it?
No, I mean, everybody does it. Hey, I can answer that from what I know, but people are trying to negotiate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And I wasn't trying to do anything bad. I didn't have any budget for this. I just needed help. I needed help. I was the lion with a thorn in its paw. Okay.
Wow.
And so I remember one time there were 6 articles that were about a page long that could fit the page. One of them was a bit longer, but I thought I could edit it down. And then I looked at that. And so there was something about it. They had just sent these things to me at their own risk. They spent time, heartache to write that thing and send it to me with no guarantee that it would ever be printed. So I want to point that out. I'll come back to that. But
that's a really good point.
Right now,
I see where you're
there's
going.
things you can do. I mean, it doesn't feel good. You're probably already doing stuff and submitting it and people aren't answering you. Or they're stealing your idea.
That just happened to me 2 weeks ago.
It's risky, but let me come back to that. It's risky, but I do it still. So, and then I would ask a second question to myself. Is this person a jerk? Is this person gonna give me a hard time? Or is this somebody who's gonna work with me? And who's gonna be understanding? So I looked at one of them and I said, oh, this is my friend. I think I can get a favor from him. I'd be like, hey, I need your help. I like your article. I want to tweak it a bit. Can it go? I don't have any money to pay you. I promise you I'll buy you a burrito and a Starbucks whenever I see you next. But I need help. And the person was like, Rudy, this is so great. Thank you. I know you. I feel, do what you need to do. Don't worry about the pay. Love what you're doing. I'd love to help more. I hope I can talk to you later too about something else, but no problems. I would look at every name of every article and say, that person's gonna jam me up. That person's gonna drag it out. That person's gonna give me a hard time. This person's nice, but the article's not as strong as this other one. This person, wow, will really work with me in my moment where I have a thorn in my paw.
Yeah.
And it would get in there. So again, it's random, kind of random, right? It was all circumstantial because nobody could have predicted that would come up. And the writers had already taken this huge risk to write something and send it in without me even promising to give them feedback. But they got published. Nina, let me tie that story off to say, I've had more than 120 articles published in newspapers and magazines around the country. 6 or 7 times in Christianity Today, in the Los Angeles Times, in Forbes, in a bunch of magazines and newspapers. I was a newspaper columnist for a season. I have reversed that method. When there are things that I've wanted, I would write up something, usually it's a short column length, like 600 words.
Okay.
You know, and I'd write up something, send it to the person. And like if you were the editor, Nina, I'd say, hey, Nina, here's an article. You know, I looked at the website. I think it kind of fits. No pressure.
Wow.
I know you're busy. If it fits, I'd love to talk with you. But if not, no worry. I just ask that you don't print it without talking to me. Or don't pass this on to anybody else either, you know. But no pressure. Love what you do. Let me know if I can help. I would be Mr. No heat, no pressure, no hustle. And you know, the editors absolutely appreciate that.
That's good.
And bosses and managers and supervisors, we see them as power people. They're jamming us up. They are people, and they run into problems, and they don't want any friction. They don't need, now I'm not saying just to give it all away either. I mean, you know, there's some sort of balance there. But I learned this because I was a boss, managing editor. I've been on different sides of the table, and I know what the experience is. So let me tie all that long thing just to say, we're in an age right now when people are looking at projects. I mean, they're going to look at your resume, but they want to know if you can do something.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you're like, well, I can do it if you tell me what to do. Well, now you're back into the Bible, because Nebuchadnezzar did that in the book of Daniel. He's like, nah, I want you to tell me my dream.
Right.
You know, that is just so unfair, right? But you know what? You can take a risk. You can like show somebody you're doing something. Like let's say if there's a nonprofit, like for example, let's say there's a nonprofit and you like to write or you feel like you can write. Write a grant proposal for them. Just do it and give it to them at the risk that they'll just take it and tweak it and put it out in their own name. That's the big risk. Or they'll just be like, we didn't ask for this, go away. Or they might look at this and go, hey, this is interesting. Who is this person? I don't know. Does anybody know this person? Oh yeah, that's so-and-so's cousin, sister. You remember at the place? They used to be in that, remember? Oh yeah. Hey, come look at this. And then, but what they're looking at, they're not looking at like you put on a nice suit. They're not looking and saying, looking at your grades or your resume. They're looking at that you did something that they need done.
Wow.
They are reading it. They're going, wow, they filled out the New York Community Foundation and they found our financials. How did they find our financial information?
Wow.
And get this person on the phone. How did you do this? Can you do this again?
Right.
Look, and here's the next problem. We don't have any money to hire you, but if you would volunteer, I would suggest in that, I know I'm making up a story here. Thank you everybody for listening. just feel it out here. So if they said that to me, they're like, we don't have any money, you know, I would say, you know, I'd be happy to write 2 more for you. You know, I'm looking around for job, as you know, I'm actually doing a couple of things. I love your work. That's why I did this in the first place. You guys are I do hope that you would look at my stuff and be like, wow, we need them. I recognize that that might not happen, and I'll be okay. So I could do 2 of these. I'd be happy to do 2 of them. I needed to do them in the next 2 weeks. Are they ready to go? Or like, are you ready for me to work on them? So you see, like the idea that you'll do something, you're easy to work with. I don't want to, I've been saying nice person, that's subjective. You're kind of easy for them to work with. You get stuff done, right? So when you're gone, all that's left is like paper on a desk or a PDF or a Word file, and they're just looking at the work that you did.
Right.
Versus you having to, I got to tie this off with one more crazy story.
Go ahead.
I became a newspaper columnist for 3 newspapers in Los Angeles.
Wow. Which ones?
In a valley of 2 million people. They were the Pasadena Star News, the Whittier Daily News, and the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. 3 papers covering a valley of 2 million people. And I became a newspaper columnist for 4 years. The way I got that was crazy. And it was just like I just told you. I knew a guy, there was a church that supported our ministry, and he knew that I had done some writing because I had an email list.
Okay.
Out of sight, out of mind. I have an email list. I sent one today.
Point. Yeah.
If I go to Walmart, I'm like, I found eggs are $1 off. Email newsletter. And people are like, Rudy, oh my gosh.
Wow.
Why? You know, but out of sight, out of mind. I tell people when I write an article or when I have a speaking engagement, today I have a chapter in a book that just came out last week. Not a book, but that I wrote, but a chapter in the book.
Okay.
So I put that into my newsletter. You know, hey, you know, one of the co-editors is Tim Keller of the Redeemer Church in New York. So, you know, I put it out. So out of sight, out of mind. Well, I've had this personal newsletter for like 25 years. And
wow. Before newsletters were cool and a part of your email marketing campaign.
Oh yeah. But now, I mean, it has a different function now, which is still really great. That's the whole story. But I became a columnist because this guy, Steve, he came to our ministry site and he said, hey, Rudy, I'm the editorial pages editor for all of these newspapers. We have an opening for a columnist. I'm not offering you the job because we have a process and there are other candidates. But if you're interested, I could put your name in the hat. And I said, yeah, I'm interested. And that's all he requested. And he left. I said, how's it going to happen? He's like, well, I'll be in touch with you. We haven't determined our process. So I know nothing at this point, right?
Right.
What did I do? Guess what I did?
What'd you do?
Think about the earlier story I just told.
Oh, you started just writing for their open.
I wrote an op-ed. I studied their style. You know, people want to know you know their style. You know, they don't want to see you just sent the same article to 50 places. I wrote an op-ed and I sent it to the guy. Unsolicited, unrequested. And I said, hey, you know, I know you're busy. Love what you do. Thank you for coming by. You know, I'm happy to do whatever, come for an interview. You know, I wanted to share this with you. I wrote it for the page. I'd be happy if you ran with it. I don't know if you're interested in running it. Hey, no pressure if it's not a fit. And you know what he does? He said, hey, thank you for this. I like it. Let me talk to my guy. I think we might run it. This does not mean you have the job, Rudy. It's just one article. I said, hey, no problem. And we don't pay much. We pay $50. Hey, that's $50. He didn't even call me back. He printed it in the paper, 3 newspapers. But then later he calls me and he's like, it doesn't mean you have the job. And it wasn't a full-time job. It's just occasional writing. I had to keep my day job. Another month passes. I don't hear from him. What did I do?
You wrote another column.
I wrote a second one. I was behaving like I had the job.
Wow, come on.
All my risk.
Hmm.
And he said, hey, I like this. Thanks. Yeah. Is it okay if we run it? I said, yeah, I'd love it. Thanks for the $50 check. Is there another check? He's like, sure, Rudy. $50. They ran it. And he calls and he says, doesn't mean you have the job.
This is great.
And then he disappears for another month. And then he calls me and he says, you have the job. And I said, what happened? And listen to this. So all the employers are telling you they have this official process, okay? They're like, we weed it out. We have AI goes through the resumes. Then we do 20 interviews. And, you know, sometimes you do that, or other times weird stuff is happening. For example, I asked my guy, what happened? He said, well, we were in an editor's meeting. We have regular editors meeting a couple times a week. We were covering a ton of stuff. And then at the end, our main guys looked up and said, hey, we got a few minutes here. Hey, so what's going on with that guest columnist thing? And they're like, well, you know, let me find the info. Well, we think we might have 4 people, you know. Well, who are they? Well, we got so-and-so, and then Rudy. Yeah, Rudy, you know, the guy, he wrote 2 of those columns, right?
Wow, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. They're like, well, what do you want to do? I mean, you know, I know we should probably do our process. And they look up and they go, well, you're saying Rudy did 2 articles. Were they good? Yeah, they were pretty good. You think he'd be a good fit? Yeah. Well, why don't we just go with Rudy? He's already doing it.
He's already doing it. Come on. Yeah.
Let me pause and take a breath.